the thing that people, people are like, oh, you guys are cocky or you're this or that. And I guess the thing is that we're above the politics, or we're benign. We're, exempt from the politics. I mean, I get in the Jeep and I drive away.
Yeah.
So every time you had us in, yeah, it was always a high pressure thing.
Let me tell you how high pressure it is. We had a huge customer on another $300 million job. We had won it. We were legacy provider for this. We'd been doing it for 10 years. And we did put some innovation into the next development. It was a complete redesign in a sense, and we learned a lot. But anyway, the customer calls. It was funny because I was engineering at the time, and the guy asked me, would you go into manufacturing? I want you on my program. I was the 7th one on this program that had 300 people. He pulled me in and said, I really need you to do me a favor. And I said, okay, which engineering team am I heading up? He goes, no, you're heading up the manufacturing team. And I go, really? He goes, yeah, I need someone with, and I'll just tell you this story, okay? We get in and they had the proposal and it had a box and we're going to build it. And all the engineers come in and they're telling everybody in the room, this is it. And I'm like, time out. I mean, we're in development right now. Yeah, well, it's almost done. I said, it ain't done. So, but meanwhile, in parallel, the customer's talking to our program manager and asks him 2 things. Are you guys doing lean? Oh, yeah. He called me the day before, goes, they want to ask me about lean. Tell me about it. And I go, so I told him about value stream mapping and the things we can do and all that. He's like, great. He's writing it down. This is pathetic in a sense, but he's writing it down. Okay. Gets on the phone with the customer. 2 things. You doing lean? Yeah. And we're doing a value stream mapping. Oh, good. So customer checks the box. He goes, are you doing concurrent engineering? He said, absolutely. I've got the right guys on it. We're this and that. And the customer said, is everything going smoothly? And he goes, oh, smooth as a baby. And he goes, oh, good. Then you're not doing concurrent engineering. You're lying to me. And Bruce walks into the room at 7 at night upstairs, and we're throwing the staplers at each other, pissed off, arguing that we got to pull this thing back and fix a bunch of shit before we move forward. And he had this grin on his face that I'll never forget. He goes, I'll be right back. Runs downstairs, calls his customer up and says, they're yelling at each other. They're pissed. They're this or that. So I guess at the end of the day, your success in concurrent engineering means that almost everybody's a little upset and almost everybody didn't get what they want.
Right.
Okay. So you tell me that that's not going to be with these high-powered, high-smart, high-dollar people. Why would you want to go and be on that team if I'm going to end up frustrated and not getting everything I want?
One of my clients calls that mutually dissatisfied.
Mutually dissatisfied, yeah. And that's a good thing, right?
And mutual dissatisfaction means you kind of got the most out of each other.
You really did.
Yeah.
And yet not everyone prevailed with everything they wanted.
Now let me ask you, did you hire me to do that value stream map?
I did.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, don't you remember? They had no time. We had to do it on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
That's
because they saw no value in it, and we're not going to slow the program down.
How many people did you have? It was stadium seating. It was
stadium seating. We went over to this conference room that we had to move the curtains and open it up. And you guys did a value stream map that was 45, 50 feet long.
Easy. And I'm sitting there.
Not being generous, yeah.
Everybody is angry.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's angry.
Because it's Saturday and Sunday too.
Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. I remember how nervous I am, right? And I walk up to the whiteboard and I pull the cap off my pen and I draw my first line, and it's a permanent marker on the whiteboard. Do you remember that?
Oh, and there's 20 engineers ready to tell you that too, right?
Oh, and then everybody jumped up my throat. But we hooked them by break. By 11 a.m., we had them all hooked.
We had them all hooked. And that's when it was so massive, we had to break it into three different correction zones, three different pieces, right?
Right. And
by the way, just huge. Okay.
No, after you.
By the way, I want to say, so when you're doing that, Dennis, when you guys do that, I told you a business to be in is you got a lot of things come up that are running perpendicular to the course of the event, which is to solve this problem. But in the doing so, you come across 5 or 6 other real key problems that you get consensus in the room. Oh yeah. And you look across the board and everyone's like, that's FUBARD, man. So you go, okay, fine. you can't just go, well, bummer. Okay, let's go back to this because people go, what the hell, So you guys do the parking lot element. So I told you a business model is to call 2 months after we've implemented the changes and go, by the way, we want to come back and visit your parking lot.
We did. You never hired us. You were the one. You would only call us when your ass.
My program manager goes, "We're doing fine. Why do I need to do that?" I'm like, that's the biggest frustration.
We get calls from you every two years, plus or minus, and it was when you were on another program causing more trouble.
Right.
And then we were. But at any rate, I agree.
Okay, I got to tell you the quick story. Then Tyrone.
Yeah.
You save him $9 million in that previous example. So he's all like, I'm a believer. This is awesome, right? So I sit by my phone in my office staring at the phone waiting for Tyrone to call to do the next one.
Right.
I'm like, okay, it's going to ring any minute now. Not ringing now. I go in his office and he goes, how long is this continuous improvement stuff going to take? And I'm like, Tyrone, do you hear yourself?
It's so crazy.
When are we done with it? I mean, how long is it going to take? I'm like, Jesus Christ. So you'd think if I saved a $9 million on a $300 million program, as your program manager, wouldn't and pay you the little bit we paid you, wouldn't you call up again and go, I don't know of any investment that can return that kind of return.
No,
and
right.
Yet he doesn't call again.
Right. It was a very little investment.
Very little, but why doesn't he? Tell me why.
Ego. No, I know.
Okay, that's
ego.
one. Put that on the list. Tell me another one.
Political culture and influence.
Okay.
If you are the boss in that kind of pressure, and this isn't Tyrone. Tyrone is super confident, but a lot of high pressure directors we see they want to be the one that had the answer. They want to be the one that drove the solution. A lot of people think that you quote unquote put lean in, like, oh, we put lean in because they have a shadow board somewhere or they studied cycle time once. They don't understand transformation's a never-ending process. And the more that you transform, the more difficult it becomes because you're starting to really use data to drive your behavior and your actions. And a lot of people don't want to solve problems because some of them get they get adrenaline pumps because they love chaos and they love crisis. And inside a crisis, politicking thrives. So what I find is most people are worried about how to get their career to the next level. And a lot of those directors get shown up, right? I mean, think about how many strap-on spines we put on people.
Right.
And prop their careers.
Strap-on porta-spine.
Yeah. Porta-spine. And how many different guys went from zero to hero because they got a voice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about the one program in particular where two relatively low-level supervisors, their careers went through the roof after that program.
Yeah, so people are afraid of getting shown up, bud. They're afraid of getting shown up.
Except it doesn't take long, as John's saying. There's some. It is the end justifies the means. It's the sausage machine you hear about, but when the sausage is good at the end of it, unfortunately, the level of pain that was needed in order to induce change was phenomenal. It was like, no. I mean, the Japanese don't go through that. They don't want any of that pain. They want to have it all up front.
Right. They don't want to suffer. Deming says it takes crisis, right? Deming says it takes crisis.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know, man. I mean, I tried to tell you that we should be doing more lean, and you just kept calling when there was problems.
Well, I was doing when I was in engineering. When I first started the manufacturing stuff, we were in an engineering review on a very small program, but the chief engineer was in there, and I had my best guy on it. And he's talking Sigma levels for the design, and he says, we were a Six Sigma company at the time. We invented the Six Sigma philosophy at the time. And his analysis came up that this is a 4.1 Sigma design. And when he finally put that quantitative figure up there, the engineers now admit the bit error rate, the frequency demand, the power demand, the weight, size, it met all these criteria, but they never considered the quality level or the production, the CPK, if you will, as a technical attribute.
Right.
They would not list it as neither would they put cost as a technical attribute either, which is a whole nother conversation I'd love to have with you guys. Nobody does. The engineers are like, what the hell's that up there for?
Right.
But anyway, there was this argument ensued on the 4.2 Sigma design, and people were really upset about it and this and that. And Chuck was his name, was the chief engineer at the time. He got pissed and walked out the door. I followed him down the hall. He says, "Get away from me." I go in his office. He's literally shaking. I'm not having this conversation with you. And I said, "Chuck, I'm not leaving. You can call security. I'm not leaving this room till you and I talk through this, dude. Because I've got a lot of other good engineers like this, and we're putting the same kind of pressures and balance into these other programs. And you're the freaking chief engineer that will be in every review. I'm not leaving this room until we come to terms." It calmed down a bit, a little cussing here and there and this and that. And then he leaned forward to me when we were all calm and he goes, "I've got some of the best engineers in the world. I don't like it when someone criticizes their design and calls it ugly or says it's substandard."
Right.
And I'm like, we've got to get out of that culture where when I'm telling you a fact like that, you don't take it personal. You consider it a design challenge and we work it. But no, everybody there took it personal and it was an insult.
Right.
Okay. And it's so much that I got a guy that's been in the business 30 years shaking in his chair.
Right.
Like that. I'm like, oh my God, I learned so much from that. I'm like, wait, how do we get beyond that? I think that's one of the bigger barriers right there, Dennis. So I don't.
Well, Johnny, I mean, how many times have we seen continuous improvement drive someone to physical duress?
Oh yeah. I mean, we see both sides, right? We see some people get driven to euphoria because they all of a sudden the light bulb comes on and they go crazy. But there are others who are so rooted in what it is that they've created or what they own or whatever, and they just can't let go, or they can't push the I trust button, you know. And it drives them mad. You know, it really does put a lot of stress on them for sure.
We do a ton more change management training up front now, Mike, than we used to.
Yeah.
In preparation for people to change, we've got to drop resistance. I do a full-on implicit bias training now, where we work on making sure that we give everybody an opportunity and we don't see people through the filter of different biases, whether it be implicit or explicit. We also talk about biases in data. I mean, how many times have you seen people use data for their advantage politically, maybe?
Just like you said just now, people don't put the cost as a piece of the data.
Yeah.
Let's leave that data out. What is cost? What is cost doing?
Oh, it's crazy.
How is cost a technical issue?
How does cost?
That's their question.
So from the very beginning with our innovation projects, you know, and Lean, we do transformation work, change management work, mostly with it's rewiring the brain of the leader. It's usually
possible.
no,
it's a tall order.
No, it's not.
But I would say more times than not, it is.
7 out of 10, it's worth it.
You guys know how disappointed I am at some of the senior leaders where I'm thinking, you know how you use starting fluid in a motor that won't start, right? And you're like, okay, blah, 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 it gets going a bit, and then it dies. And then it gets going again, and then it gets going fast enough that it can suck its own gas and run fine. And you're like, okay, one more event, maybe another $10 million savings, and we're going to have this director on our side.
Right.
And he's going to be an enthusiastic requester of this, and it never happens.
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't their idea.
I don't know how you could rewire some of these guys. The best way is success follows success, or however they say it, right? Well,
we just wait until it gets bad enough for them again, then they go.
Isn't that terrible to say that, Dennis?
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm running a company. Is that what I want to know? Is the only time I bring in real good help is when my back's so far against the wall, I have no other out.
So let's call that the 3 out of 10. The 7 out of 10 mature and grow and treat people with respect and get performance without pressure and use data and science and have people come to work and learn. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
right? So more times than not, we get those. You can create any culture you want under one roof, even in 2020.
We loved the fact that you had us parachute in when times were really, really tough, and you threw very difficult things onto us, and that was fantastic. We've had the other side of the spectrum too, where we had another long-term client who I'm still very, very friendly with now. He's going to be one of our guests as well. where we essentially moved into one of his, well, several of his plants, but one in particular in Chicago for 3-4 years, and really had that plant humming.
5 of us every day.
Yeah. And really turned that around. Now, the unfortunate part of the end of that story was that all of that work was to help them get sold to a venture capital company.
Oh, yeah.
And as they were bought, they no longer saw the new owners no longer saw the benefit of paying these other folks to come in and help them run their plant.
Mm-hmm.
And so they shut it right down. Well, now we still have a lot of friends inside those plants, and every single one of those plants in that division has had huge backslides.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
that the CEO has been calling me again recently. Now, it's too bad because none of that had to happen. We could, and we had the following there. We were actually helping some of their people become their organic people who would continue to do that work once we were really gone.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it all came crashing down.
And Mike,
so those leadership changes were catastrophic in a sense in that regard.
Yeah, we see the worst lean enterprise transformations are the ones that relapse when one person or 2 people leave.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so if it's like a middle manager dependent transformation, it just doesn't work.
No, you're right. I mean, and that's the by the way, this is another statistic that used to drive my team nuts because they'd work their butts off to make change, right, and try it. And I said, okay, by the way, they're walking out the door very frustrated that somebody didn't adopt their changes or whatever. I said, oh, by the way, just a quick metric for you. The best change agents in the world are 25% effective.
That's yeah.
They're like, what's that? I go, yeah. So you have 4 changes. If one's adopted, you're one of the best in class. And they like, well, that's an indictment on the process, and who would ever pick that as a career? And I mean, that tells you just how hard change is to these guys. Hey, right. It reminds me of a quick story I got to tell. Sorry, it's about you guys, but I remember when I asked you to go down to San Diego for that one company.
Yeah.
And it was one we had acquired, and you guys were up in a lobby or some kind of balcony or something, and looking out with the VPs and stuff, and you saw the whole factory floor. And then John or somebody, you guys asked like 3 questions. So what's your throughput here, and what's your output there, and what's your this there and that there? And they guys, they answer it. And then you 2 looked at each other and said, yeah. And they go, what? And they go, well, you got way too much inventory on the floor right now.
Yeah.
Way too much, right?
Yeah.
I got a call. Yeah, we don't think these guys will help, this and that. Okay, this and that. So they brought in like an Arthur Anderson or some kind of bullshit right that. So we're in a meeting, a program review about 2 months later. This guy comes in to give a briefing. We have determined through 2.5 weeks of analysis and flows, 14 simulations.
Oh no, he froze.
He looks a little bit like Max Headroom right there, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Him and Motorcycle Mike.
They have way too.
We lost you there for a second.
Yeah,
I don't. Let's see. Can you see me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay,
you're
but
back.
I can't hear. I can't see. Okay, I'm sorry. Where did I leave you?
They came in 2.5 weeks later after doing much mastication. I'm choosing my word carefully.
Yeah, mental mastication. And came in and said they had way too much inventory on the floor. And I looked at my VP and I said, dude, my guy said that in 7 minutes of standing there.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know why I thought about that, but and I can't see you guys for some reason.
Well, we're coming close to our time here at any rate. I think.
Okay.
For me, I'm really grateful that you're joining us on this podcast. I'm looking forward to a few more sessions where we dig into some of these other issues that are relevant for people. John and I are going to try and get you off the bench and into the game, helping out some of our innovation clients with your concurrent engineering expertise. And it's just fun having you here, man. I mean, some of the most proud experiences I've had in my career have been serving your projects. So I'm grateful for those chances and for the stuff I've learned from you.
And likewise, I mean, trust me, you already know I've learned a lot more from you than you've learned from me. So
That's probably true.
I'm in. Well, at least you're modest, but
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right. So what we do, Mike, at the end is we do a quick plus delta. You know this routine.
Mm-hmm.
So would you give us something you like, something you think could be different?
If we're going to continue and have different topics, you could see how many roads we can go down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I liked, as in each of these, we used examples. There's nothing, I think, to convey messages to people. Have you ever been in a setting where they go, would you like to hear an example? Everybody in the room would love to hear an example of what you just espoused or whatever, right? So I think our use of examples was positive. I think it's easy to do. My wife did ask me, have you prepared for this? And I said, honey, I've been preparing for this for 35 years. As you notice, none of us are reading anything. None of us are scripting anything. And I could do this in front of 2 of you, or I've done it in front of 200. So, I mean, It's just the way it is. You understand it. As I said before, you believe it. So it makes it easy. I like the format because it makes it easy for us. As you can see, guys, this was supposed to be half an hour.
Yeah.
We got so much we can talk through and so much we can learn from each other still. I'm jazzed about it. Process-wise, I got to figure out. We're a lot better, but this is my first Zoom stuff. I'm setting up my office still. And by the way, there's a run on optical cameras and stuff because of everybody doing home office. Best Buy, Staples, all of them are gone. They've been on back order for weeks. So it's bizarre, but everyone's working from home. But so anyway, technically, I got to work through some things here.
That's a good delta.
As a delta, yeah.
And Johnny, what about you?
You know what? My plus is the fact that we can get together as, like no time has passed. We can bust each other's sack and just laugh a lot. And I love the laughter that the three of us generate. And it's all with real good respect, and we all love each other. And this is really a fun thing for me, and I hope there's many more of these. The Delta, I think we went longer than we ought to have, and I think we'll just as we figure out what topics we want to cover, we can, as we move forward, we can kind of stay a little more focused, and that'll be taking care of itself.
All right, thank you. My plus is definitely similar to yours. It's our chance to get together. The ability to connect in this way it's great. I hope that others can, at least empathize or commiserate, or maybe even learn, dare I say, learn a little bit from some of the stuff we talk about. But my delta is the same, Johnny. Maybe we went a little long, and I think, Mike, there's all these different roads we can go down. We should identify, Engineering Mike's series and what are some of the things that we can, bring to the table so that others can learn from the experience that we've had together.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for all your time. Thank you for listening. And for now, I'm Uncle D. Peace.